Hello everybody, welcome back to the next episode of All the Mods 8. We're starting off today with a fresh update on the pack. I think this is update 1.17, I think, or something like that. What they did, I believe, is they just made it so that some of these quest lines were a little more straightforward, a little bit more streamlined, easier to read. The main one that I noticed, first of all, was Mystical Agriculture. This one has been overhauled. I think it looks a lot easier to follow, a lot cleaner too, so we have some quest rewards here. I also have a couple of other quest rewards to claim through all of this, but I'm not going to do all that right now. But I just wanted to mention that this quest tree has been overhauled a little bit, and I believe that this creative tab here has been added as a kind of a how you get the All the Mods Star, and they show you all the things you have to automate or get first before you can get the star. Which is kind of nice, because it kind of acts as a bit of a checklist here of things you have to get still, which is really cool. I just claimed every reward at once, and I think that may have been a mistake. I have probably quite a few things here to dump away. Ooh, a mining gadget, that's kind of cool. So down here, I'm happy with how our base is turning out. I do think that we aren't going to need a whole lot more space for industrial foregoing. I think we've gotten pretty much everything we need to out of the industrial foregoing mod, apart from maybe some higher end dissolution chamber recipes. But other than that, I think we can also get, I think there's the stasis chamber. Yeah, this is kind of what you use to hold a wither in place. And the whole point of that is to get ether gas, I believe. And the ether gas, I don't know if it has any super big uses for us. So here, the infinity nuke actually is required for the pulsating black hole, which is made in the pressure chamber of Pneumaticraft. Yeah, here. So we do actually need to make one of these, at least one. So we are going to need 2 buckets of ether gas. And the only way you can do that is by draining a wither. So it's going to be kind of the thing we're going to want to do. That's the last thing that I think we have to do in Industrial Foregoing for the mod. So we're probably going to have to go ahead and get that done. And I noticed that I haven't really been checking off any of the quest line from Industrial Foregoing. I think it does actually remember the quests you have completed. So that might actually be okay if we get... Let's see if we can get ourselves... do we have a pity machine frame? We can make one. Yeah, so that will finish the quest, and it does remember the other stuff you've done, which is great. So I can go ahead and claim all these rewards. Not that these give us any resources that we don't already have. Our goal is to get to the ether gas. That's going to be really easy because we already can make the ore laser base. We can already make the machine frame. We have a purple laser lens, so all we have to do is then spawn in a wither, and we should be good to go. There's actually one thing I am going to craft here, though, that I realize I haven't, is called the meat feeder. This actually, I think, will allow us to use some of this extra liquid meat we have as a permanent food source. That just grabbed 510 buckets of it. And if we put this on our head, I think this will automatically keep us fed. So I don't even think we have to, I don't even think we have to do any eating here. I think just let this thing do it. It'll just automatically eat this instead of the steak. And that way this is a much longer, this will last a whole lot longer than the steak, I think. So we should be almost good for the rest of the pack with that. Okay, so I've pretty much caught up our progression here in Industrial Foregoing. I think this is pretty much all the stuff we have done so far. And I've caught up the quest line here. And the next quest here to kind of finish it off is the ether gas bucket. All of these side things, quests, are optional, but they can be helpful as well, such as the material stonework factory can be like an auto producer of like sand, gravel, glass, etc., etc. So that can be a really nice one to have going. Probably have a few of those going at some point just to keep up with some of the other materials that we might not have right now. The enchantment extractor is nice because then you can then take enchantments off of tools and get them back on books, which is nice. The hydroponic beds are also a way that you can actually grow crops on top of, and these are actually very, very efficient if you give them ether gas. So that might also be a thing we can upgrade our current mystical agriculture setup to if we really wanted to, but I think it's probably fast enough, at least in the meanwhile. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of other like quality of life type things. There's a couple of all sorts of different resources can be produced from these, and also you can actually create a generator that produces a ridiculous amount of RF. I think in the range of like 25 million RF per tick if all of the generators are running at the same time in the same location. It's an very interesting way to generate power, but it's quite difficult. So this may or may not be something we do. We might end up just sticking with a mechanism setup if we do want higher amounts of power, but that's just cool to know that we can do. One thing I do want to upgrade really quickly here, though, is I do want to get what happened here? I do want to get a dimension card for our refined storage system. This thing's pretty expensive. It takes 4 of the infinity boosters, which take some of this, the unobtainium and enderium plates, of which we need to use the invar to get, or the hammer to get. But we have lots of enderium, so that's not a big problem. But the issue is nether stars. The nether stars, we're going to need, how many of these? 4 just for this entire craft. So I'm going to have to go and kill 4 withers to get some more nether stars. That being said, for this creative, we need 15 3 times compressed nether star blocks. 15 blocks of 3 times, which is 9 times 9 times 9. 10,000 nether stars. So, all that being said, I think we're going to have to come up with a solution to nether stars. Producing nether stars. The way I think we're going to go about this is we either have to manually kill and set up withers over and over again, which is going to be slow, or we can go with these. They're called loot fabricators, and this is using the hostile neural network mod. And to get this, you basically have to run a simulation of a wither, and if the simulation succeeds, it will then produce you a nether star. To get these wither predictions, you have to put in a data model of a wither into this simulation chamber, and it has a certain % chance of producing what you want here. So as you can see, the higher tier this data model is, the higher % chance that you're going to get a wither prediction is. So we want to get this data model as high as possible, and as it runs over and over again, it will get better and better at doing it. It'll like keep improving itself. But we can give this a good start by starting off by killing a bunch of withers to begin with. So it said right there that we need 4 wither kills to get the basic model and 10 for the advanced. So I'm thinking what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'll set this, I'm lost. I'm going to go ahead and set the simulation chamber on autocraft. And on top of that, we also are going to need to get a loot fabricator. And all of this is easy enough as well. In order to actually get this data model, we need to get what's called a model framework, and you have to right click on an entity to build that data model. Okay, so we should be good here. We have the data model framework. We have to get a deep learner. This is kind of like the tool for the mod. This is what you can put all your data models in. And it actually has a slot in your inventory called the deep learner slot right here. So you can kind of put this in. And how this works is you put the data models that you have inside of this. And then once you do the killing below to the mobs, it'll keep track of all the mobs that you've killed in here. And it'll increase the data models qualities, the ones that you have stored in here. So we have everything we need, I think, to get started. Now, this mod is quite power hungry because it uses power every time it runs a simulation. And that can get kind of power hungry right away. So I'm just I wasn't sure exactly where I was gonna put this thing. We might have to find a better place to put these because we're gonna probably want more than what we currently have. Because these are gonna be fast, but not fast enough possibly for what we're gonna want. And we're gonna go ahead and get a couple of these out as well. So let's go ahead and put down a point here. And we're gonna get 2 cables running along the back, and then we're gonna slap these in. Simulation chamber there, loot fabricator there. You can see the buffer in here is 2 million FE and 1 million in this one. So between these two, that's gonna drain a lot of power. So in order to do anything though, first we have to go ahead and get this data model improved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the end. Let's go ahead and hop in the main end island. we've done this many times. So let's go ahead and do this one more time. So once this wither explodes and starts fighting, we can go ahead and right-click with the model framework on the wither. Actually, I'm going to turn that all the way down. Alright, the TNT was the problem. There we go, that's fine. So now if I right-click on the wither, we see that we have constructed a wither data model. Let's go ahead and put this away inside of the deep learner. And now what we can do is put this in the deep learner slot, hit it 3 times, and there we go. And now you see that we have 5 remaining for the faulty model to upgrade to the basic model. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. And I'm going to do this 10 times total. And then we will hopefully have an advanced wither data model. Now that I think about this, I'm already quite a few in. I don't know why I'm not increasing multiple data models because we have slots in them. So I might as well come home here, create some more data models. All right, if we craft 3 of these now, I can hopefully go ahead and grab the deep learner out of here. And I'm not sure if I can right click on the same wither multiple times to create the data models. I don't see why not, but then we can hopefully start increasing all the data models together. Yeah, we can make all of these wither data models and then go ahead and slap all of them in here because we might want more than one of these. There we go. So now we have, it looks like we have a basic model and 3 faulties. There we go. And now we have, so that's really good. I don't know why I wasn't doing that earlier. Definitely, if you want more, you can do multiples at once. That's probably a good idea. It might even be a good idea to have multiple deep learners with multiple models in those, and then you can get a whole bunch of these guys up quite fast. But I'm just going to go ahead and get all of these guys to basic model. So I'm going to have to go back and cut a couple more things for the stars, but then they can start working at the basic model. Okay, so I do have a couple more models to go before all of them are at least the basic tier. But I think I actually am going to try and get them to advanced. Before I go back and do that though, let's go ahead and craft that dimensional upgrade. So the dimensional card, we have all of the wither stars we need. Everything else is in order. Let's go ahead and craft one right now. This will give us unlimited access to our refined storage system from across dimensions as well. And that actually gave us a couple of little bonuses here, which is nice. Now, the one thing that I'm concerned about is how much power this is going to take. We are currently being powered by the flux point with a high priority, so we should never run out of power here. But I don't know how much this is going to take. We put this in here. Let's go ahead and look at our power here. This thing is using 8,000 FE per tick. Okay. So that is pretty brutal. I think we're okay with that, though. It's a lot, but it's going to be worth it. Let me just go ahead and make sure that our system isn't draining too much. So it is draining, of course, but as long as this thing can keep up with it, we shouldn't have a problem. My only thought is we have all the miners running as well. So I just wanted to make sure that this thing at its peak was not getting drained and not able to keep up with itself. And it does seem like it is okay. I think it is able to keep up, and if we really need to, we can probably just add in 2 more reactors on each side here if we really want to, but I think this is going to be okay to keep up. So we're going to go ahead and let that go. But that will let us access our refined storage from anywhere in any dimension, which is really cool. Anyway, I'm going to go back to killing withers here for a little bit, and I'm going to get these data models all increased. And this should be the last one here. We are on the final one before the basic models actually will increase to the advanced tiers. And there we go. We have inside of our deep learner 4 data models for the wither that are all advanced tier. And I actually had an idea while I was just doing all this in terms of the design of the place. I I figured this is meant to be kind of a lab looking area. So I thought, well, why don't we have like computers and stuff running all over the place? I'm like, once these things are running, I actually shouldn't have to like interact with them too much. So I actually don't mind having these. I'm gonna actually fill this back in. I don't actually mind having these a little bit up out of the way. And I was thinking about making some of this area kind of like a giant display screen. So like these areas in here could be like our, our simulation chambers, or we could have simulation chamber into loot fabricator, just like so. I mean, we'd have to get back here to run power, of course. We have to be able to take the results from the simulation chamber and put them into the loot fabricator. And I want to make it really clean because I do want to make it all kind of like on the wall as if it was a wall panel. I don't want any like cabling to show. And I might also, of course, make some more to make it symmetrical on the other side, or even all around we could do it if we wanted to run other mobs in here. Oh, I may have miscounted. I can do 3 per side. Maybe we'll just start with 3. That might be nicer for power anyway, and then we can have the 4th just as a backup. That's fine there. So let's go ahead and run the data models into all of the simulation chambers. And there we go. Those are all in and ready to go. Now, the problem is now that they're in here, in order to run simulations, we need to provide it with these prediction matrices. These are what it actually uses inside of the simulation chamber to run the... I'll even just make a couple to demonstrate. If we put this in here, these missing prediction matrix, there we go. We do not have the required energy levels, which we can resolve using a point on the back like so. And now this is running. Launching runtime, it does a little bit of it just runs some lines of code, it looks like. It gives you a little percentage of how long it's going to take, and then at the end it'll say it either failed or passed. And in this case, the simulation failed, so all we get is the generalized ender prediction. We don't get the wither prediction. This can still be used to craft a bunch of stuff that we actually might be interested in still, such as the dragon head, which is kind of cool, but we can do that this way too. So these aren't used for a whole lot that we would actually care for. Yeah, they're kind of useless in many cases, but it's kind of like the junk result. So this one failed as well. But we can see that as this runs more and more simulations, the model accuracy will actually improve. Let's see what happens this time. It failed again. But then it should, there we go. It increased it by like 0.15, I think, or something like that percent. So very little, but this thing can run over and over again. And it'll keep getting itself better and better. This time it succeeded. Yay! So we actually should get one wither prediction as well. There we go. We have the wither prediction, and this can be used inside of a loot fabricator. I'm going to go ahead and give this thing some power. Right here. And if we put the wither prediction into here, it'll give you an option of all the different resources you can select on this end. Because the wither only drops the nether star, that is the only option. And once you click on it, it will constantly produce nether stars as it gets more wither matrix predictions. So in order to fully automate this, we want to be able to power all of this. We want to be able to insert prediction matrices into the back of this. We want to take out the wither matrices or the wither predictions and put them inside of the loot fabricator. And then once this thing creates the nether stars, we have to pull the nether stars out the back. So that's a lot of things that we have to do on one face of the machine because we have to keep everything looking clean. Thankfully, there is a solution for that, and that is in the form of XNet. XNet lets you do multiple different operations on one block using one connected face. And it's going to be hard to explain without actually showing you guys. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of explaining here. I'm going to more just show you how I'm going to use it in this situation. And you guys can play around with it in your own worlds if you want to see what you can do with it. There's a whole lot of different ways you can make XNet super, super powerful. and it is a very powerful mod. So I'm very excited to get playing with this as well. And the nice thing is our refined storage cabling is right here. So we can actually make use of this, and we are going to need a exporter as well. I think just an elite one will be fine. I mean, even the basic one is probably fine too. And for some reason that's a quest I have not made. So let me tell you how we're going to set this thing up. We need to put these connectors on the back of everything that we want to be able to be on the system. So that means all of these loot fabricators and all of these simulation chambers have to be on the system together. We also want to give this thing some power. We have to be able to power the entire system. So let's go ahead and put down the controller. The controller is kind of the heart of the system. You need this to be able to see all the other blocks that are connected. And then finally, we can come in here and put a plug in here, and that will then show that we have power, and we can extract power from this plug. I'll show how I'm going to configure this in a sec here. But finally, I want to come in here and get this refined storage stuff set up. So I'm going to put a drawer right here. This is just a drawer that I used, a recycled drawer from the previous storage we had a while ago. I'm just going to make use of that here. And I'm going to set an exporter like so. I want to put these on autocraft, so these are all good to go. We put these on autocraft up here. I want to say, hey, keep the prediction matrices stocked to 32 at all times. Now that that's being kept in stock, we want to export these to this barrel. And that's definitely fast enough. And that'll keep these prediction matrices stocked at all times. Now, I don't want 2000 in here, so if I go ahead and put on this upgrade, it's a downgrade actually, it'll actually only keep 64 of these matrices stocked. And that way we don't have 2000 crafted at a time, and that way it'll have a couple of predictions hopefully buffered ready to go once this is being used. That's great. That's effectively all we need in terms of just raw inputs and raw input. We don't really have any other input we need, but we do have to have an export. So in order to export, I'm just going to set a barrel as our export. This is going to import the results back into our system via the barrel. All right, so the spaghetti is done. All configured in here nicely. And the last thing we have to do is basically set what we want this to be doing. In order to make things a little bit easier to understand and see what's going on in here, I'm actually going to go ahead and name these connectors so I know what I'm talking about in terms of which block I'm referring to when I'm doing the work in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and name this Sim1, Sim2, and Sim3. And same thing here, I'm going to go loot 1, loot 2, and loot 3. Now that's going to make it so that some of these are going to be, because some of these are actually sharing connectors, like the power is sharing a connector with this will actually show up as Sim1 under the power connector. Similarly to the barrel, I think that's being shared with the loot 3. So barrel will be loot 3, but that's okay. As long as we know which of these 3 is Sim 1, 2, and 3, then we're all set. We know what we're talking about. Now, the first thing we want to do is give these guys power. Currently, they're getting no power from the system. Even though there is a point plugged in, they're not getting any power. So what we're going to do is go ahead and select channel 1. First, I had to remove what was already in there. But channel 1, we want to come in here until we get a tab called XNet Energy. And that we want that to be on channel 1. In channel 1, you can see it highlights kind of all it shows all the boxes here that are being affected by channel 1. And then you have 2, 3, 4. You have up to 8 channels on one XNet network to play with. So that's going to be plenty, hopefully, for this situation. But anyway, we want XNet Energy, and we want to create on the channel. And that's going to show up... Oh, there we go. And it's going to show up yellow, and that denotes that this is energy. So in order to give these energy, what we have to do is create right here from the connector, we want to create an extract. And if we click on here, you can toggle between inserting and extracting. We want to extract power from the plug and we want to insert it into all of these. Now, what we can do, if we have all of these are going to be insert, we can just hit copy and then just Control V all the way down. So these are all going to get power now, as well as the controller needs power. So now all of these should have power. There we go. Very good. And you can actually change how much power you want to be able to give these. Limited to, I think by default, it'll set it to as fast as it can, but you can also limit in here and set priorities, but priorities aren't important for us right now. The next thing we want to do is we want to come in here and say, okay, we want to take items, XNet item. This is an item channel now. Items are going to be coming in to this drawer here that we can see here, the Sim3, this frame drawer. We want to extract from the drawer, and we want to insert the prediction matrices into all of the simulation chambers. So if we come in here, we say, okay, here are the simulation chambers. Let's go and insert into all of these. And now if we check these should all be getting, hopefully, there we go. It's starting to fill up here. It fills up kind of like, I guess, in a certain order, but once these are full, then it should start filling up this one, and then the next one here too, which is great. And we already have a couple of wither predictions built up in here, which is great. Now we have two results from this. We have the ender prediction that comes from this and the wither prediction. The only thing we want to send to the loot fabricator is the wither predictions. So let's go ahead and grab one of each of these, because we're going to have to filter these. So this is done already. This is great. This is going to be now another XNet item channel. We want to then take certain results out of this. We want to set extracts on all of the loot simulator, or the simulation chambers. And we're going to go ahead and set just the fastest it can. You can actually adjust the speed here, the number of ticks per operation. We want to set this to as fast as possible, so it'll do it'll do an operation every 5 ticks, which is really fast. So we want to extract everything out of these, just like so. So that means there's no filter on this, so it's just going to take all the results out of the simulation chamber. And we only want some things to go into these loot fabricators, and that is going to be the wither predictions. We can actually just put the filter in, so it'll only take wither predictions, which is good. That means that if we come into here, we should see that, oh, we already have 5 nether stars there, and we have to actually go in here and select the nether star for each of these. That way it'll know what it's trying to make. So every time there's a new wither prediction matrix that comes through here, it'll get sucked out and be put into an available loot fabricator. We still have to deal with this ender prediction though, and for the most part this stuff is kind of just trash, so I don't really want to store it. I don't want it to clog up my inventory. I don't want it to clog up my disk space, so I'm actually going to go ahead and add a trash can up here, and that will be shown on here just like so. And we only want this to insert generalized ender predictions into the trash can. So now these should all be kept clean of the ender predictions. I know that we could use the ender predictions for some stuff, but realistically all the other stuff that we have is easier gotten other ways. Now that we have all of these coming in here and producing us nether stars, we have to extract out of that. This should be our last channel here. We want to extract out of all of our loot fabricators, and we want to insert into this barrel, which is the barrel that we use to import everything back into our refined storage system. And that is it. I can go ahead, I can close all this up just like so, and that is a fully automated nether star farm, which is like, look at that, look at that. It's so small. It's like the best way that I think you can possibly do this. And it is power hungry, yes, but by the time we have a lot more power, that's not going to be an issue. And then we can also just set this up so we can have like a bunch of them on the walls, and I think they look super cool up there. It's the aesthetic that matters, really. But hopefully these things are going to start getting good. 33%, so they are getting better and better at what they're doing. but they're obviously going to take some time to get to the highest tier. And by that point, I think they're going to be at like 90%, 99% accurate. So that's going to be plenty of nether stars coming in, hopefully. But yeah, I think that looks really, really cool up there. And I was just AFK here for like maybe 10, 15 minutes. And the processes here have pretty much increased all the way up to, well, this one's almost 50%. The other two are, looks like 40 and 42%. So they're getting up there, but we have 157 nether stars. So definitely on our way. I really want to get ourselves powered through here and get ourselves into ether gas and then also a supreme machine frame autocraft, because then that'll unlock pretty much everything from industrial foregoing for us. And we can basically put a check mark on this mod, more or less. To get started here, we're going to need a laser fluid base, a purple lens, I believe, which I think we can put on autocraft, which is good. We do have leftover drills, which is nice. I don't know how many we're going to need. I'm just going to bring all of them. I don't think we're going to need that many, but regardless, that should be fine. I started digging out this room here. It's underneath the setup here for industrial foregoing. I just have an elevator coming down here, and it's still a work in progress. So the heart of actually what we're going to be using here is the stasis chamber. This is what we actually need to keep the wither in place while we are drilling the fluid. So we have everything we need to auto-craft this, so we'll go ahead and get that started. And this is going to be very important that we always keep powered, because if this runs out of power, then the wither will get loose and we will have problems. So if I put this down with no power currently, I have to make sure that we actually give this thing some power. So we're going to come under here. Let's go this. There we go. And as you can see, it is already working. Our FOV goes crazy, and that actually means we're frozen in place. So because we have creative flight, it actually overrides it a little bit, but let's go ahead and turn this off for now. We can show the working area. So this is where it's actually going to be effective within. That is any entity within that zone, I believe, will be frozen in place. So that's how we're going to end up freezing the wither while we do the fluid drilling. So where we actually have to have this drill set up, though, I believe is right here. Just like so. This is the fluid base. That's where we have to have this. And the drills have to be pointed into this as we had done before. That might be enough for now. You know what? If we want to speed it up, we'll add some drills. I think we can add that later. So anyway, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this point, it would be a really good idea if we made sure that this thing had a very high priority. I'm thinking like 100. That way, this is going to be the first thing and only thing that'll be powered if our system, for some reason, just completely shuts down. That is just going to assure that we never run out of power here. Now, the way I'm going to actually get this out, like all the fluid out, instead of trying to like set up some sort of refined storage tank here, I'm actually going to use an ender tank, which I don't know if I've actually used so far yet. All right, let's go ahead and put these down and configure them with our purple dye. So now if I put one of these tanks on top like so, this should be going pretty quickly as well. We need to put this lens in here. We're going to put a processing and efficiency upgrade in there as well. And we want the fluid to output to the top, which is going to put this into the tank, which will be good to go. All that's left to do is, I believe, just give this thing a little bit of power. Okay, let's do some last second checks. Let's turn back on this to always be running. I don't think we need to actually increase the upgrades in here at all. I think that's fine the way it is. The direction the wither will actually spawn, I think, is dependent on which, like, it'll face a certain way. So odds are it probably won't face towards us, which is going to be sad. But that's okay. Okay. Okay, so he is frozen. He's no longer gaining health, which means, because usually how it works is the wither will increase to 300 health, and then he will do the explosion, and then he's fightable. But he's currently frozen at about half health, or a third health here, which is good. That's what we wanted to see. And that is good. Now, these hopefully should be running. Kind of tough to tell. I mean, the way we can tell is if we put the ender tank down and if we have ether gas. Yep, ether gas is coming in. You can see that. So that is good to go. Now, I'm going to use this to then pump into one of those jumbo tanks again. I'm going to go actually set this up beside where the other tanks are set up. External storage we're going to need one of. Because then we can just keep all of our fluids together in one spot. Put an external storage on and set it to fluids. Higher priority as well. But then we want to filter this to ether gas. And now we should just have to pump the fluid in using this ender tank. And I'm going to put this right here. Just like so. And one pipe there should do it. Ether gas. And it is filling itself up at a very good pace. I do think that's about as fast as we're going to need it. I don't think we need ether gas for a ton of other things. But anyway, let's go ahead and get that quest done. I think that should just be a matter of grabbing ourselves a bucket and grabbing a bucket of this. That is the ether gas completion. And it looks like we can just go ahead and put this. Looks like they gave us a little bit of ether gas too, which is very nice. And then we can go set the autocraft recipe for the Supreme machine frame. Now, do we have everything else we need for this? Netherite, check. Plastic, yes, yes, yes. This is all very easy to get. And that is going to be totally fine. And finally, the Supreme machine frame. And that is a quest. There we go. That is awesome. Okay. And all these things that we can build, we can now make with the Supreme machine frame, like the Supreme black hole for fluid storage and item storage, which we might not use too much. There's the Wither Builder, which will actually automate the building of withers, but we already have Nether stars sorted. So that was going to be a good option if we were going to be going this route. This would actually build a wither for you. Oh, but it looks like it is required for the Wither Compass. And that's really good because we already have Heart of the Deep. We need one of these. So let's go ahead and make that. Might as well. The Wither Builder here, it's already makeable. And that's good. The Wither Builder is complete. So that's going to be great because then that'll basically give us one step closer towards getting this Wither's Compass. That's awesome. We have fully automated pretty much everything that we need from Industrial Foregoing. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to join the Discord to get notified when I'm going to upload next. Anyways, that's it from me. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.